Hello, welcome to the Manic, Pixie Dream podcast. I am the host, Caroline Georges. Welcome. So today I wanted to talk about some crazy dates I've been on. I went on a double date with a friend. She invited me to go to this like Game of Thrones screening party with this guy that she started dating, and so he had a roommate, and I'm a really good friend, so I went. And it was actually a lot of fun. It was really fun. I wasn't into the guy, because of course not. But I mean, but it was a lot of fun. We oh God, Game of Thrones, dude, that show. I mean, I'm really sorry if you're not watching Game of Thrones, you are missing out. You are missing out on this incredible fandom that is just like, it's like half the planet, you know, watching this show. And yesterday was like the fucking moon landing. Watching yesterday's episode of season 8, episode 3, it was so good. They defeated the White Walkers. I mean, spoiler alert, they defeated the White Walkers. And man, Arya defeated the White Walkers. Everyone everything that they did was fruitless until Arya, you know, stepped forward to do what she did. And she killed it. She literally killed it. She killed the Night King, and it was just so phenomenal. And you know, there was this moment in it that just had so much meaning for me. There's this part where her sister Sansa, the redhead, Tyrion, they have a moment where she tells him, "You are my favorite husband," because the whole like, okay, so basically this is what happens. Sansa has just like this horrible experience every season. She just is being I can't even get into it, but basically she was forced into this marriage to Tyrion Lannister, and she told him, and it was just this horrible situation, and for her, and she tells him, you know, "You are my favorite husband." And I had a moment this year over Christmas. I saw my stepbrother, and he had heard about how I've been talking about it, about how I was like, oh, I was sexually assaulted, and again, and it doesn't matter how many times, it's just each time is horrible. No matter, it just doesn't matter how many times you've been sexually assaulted, it's always going to be bad. You never get used to it. So my stepbrother, he and I have always had this really rocky relationship, and so he heard about how I was sexually assaulted, and he took me shopping, like he spent a bunch of money on me he took me to the mall. He was like, "Just buy whatever you want." And I did. And he and I talked and just had this really great conversation where I just said, you know, we just said everything that we needed to say to each other. And I just got so much out of it. And it was just, you know, and like my stepbrother in a way is just like my Tyrion Lannister. Like we were just, you know, forced into this, you know, marriage together. Our parents' marriage together, and just what our experience were with that marriage, within that marriage, you know, it was, and what we both went through, and it was just this beautiful time to spend with him, and that scene just had so much meaning for me, and it's just so relatable. It's just amazing that you have something that you can relate to, that you can mirror your own experiences and just project those onto characters, and just see yourself mirrored in these fictional characters is just so incredible. It's just such a profound show in so many ways. So, you know, watch the show. You're missing out. You're missing out on this incredible fandom and history in the making, and just go and watch all the episodes if you haven't seen it yet. It's just so good. So that way you can watch the season finale with everybody. It's just going to be the series finale with everyone. It'll be so amazing for you. Trust me, just to join it at this point would just be, you're missing out. But I wanted to talk about, so when I went to this screening party, it was a lot of fun. We just, you know, we hung out, we drank, we played games, so we were sitting around this fire pit in their backyard, and we were talking about, so we decided to go around and tell our craziest dating stories, and I won. I had the best stories, and so I wanted to share those stories with you today, and just kind of what I learned from them and what my experience. They weren't really dates; they were more like experiences, because just what of the shit that went down. So when I was 14, this boy that I liked, he and his friend came and picked me up, and they didn't tell me what we were doing. But this was a moment where I will tell you, because of this, I am capable of total cowardice. And I'm capable of just sitting back and doing nothing while somebody is being demolished, and I'm capable of that. I'm capable of not doing anything when something wrong is happening, and I have the power to stop it. Maybe I didn't have the power to stop it, but I could have done something to prevent this girl from being really hurt. And so I was sitting in the back seat, and they weren't talking to me, and they were just ignoring me. And so we went to McDonald's, and this girl named Kimberly, and she was in track with me, and she was, really heavy set. She didn't really have any friends. She was kind of a big dork. She had bad skin. She didn't shower. She didn't brush her teeth. She just was this target she was mocked and made fun of and laughed at all the time. And so she had a crush on the boy who was driving, who was the friend of my guy, and so they went to McDonald's where she was working, and and so he was on the phone with her, and he was telling her to come out and meet them, and there was an RV in the parking lot of the McDonald's, and he told her that he was in the RV, and to come out and meet him in the RV, and then we drove off, and we went to the adjoining parking lot to where the mall was at, and we could still see her, and then the RV drove out of the McDonald's parking lot and went into the mall parking lot, and so she came out and she said, "The RV's gone. Where are you guys? There's no RV." And so he said, "Oh, it's in the mall parking lot. Come to the mall. We're at the mall." And so I watched while this girl, came over, really excited that that the man of her dreams liked her back when he was just fucking with her. And so she went to the RV in the mall, and then this guy came out who wasn't the guy that she thought it was going to be. And I'll never forget the look on her face when she saw who it was in the RV, and just the confusion and just the hurt and the heartbreak, and how I did nothing to stop that from happening. And, there was also, my favorite part of last night's episode of Game of Thrones was when Bran Stark forgave Theon and said, "You're a good man," and really confirmed that to him, that he was a good man, even though he had made so many mistakes, and even though he had murdered children. He said, "You're a good man, and thank you." And it was just really beautiful. And I don't know, I guess it kind of makes me think of the religious theory of Judgment Day, of, standing before God and God judges you and stuff. And I just want that to be my experience on Judgment Day, if there is one, that God tells me that I was a good woman, even though I fucked up, even though I've done fucked up things like that, and that I've been a part of fucked up things, that I could be forgiven, and that I could be a good woman and be seen that way. And I just, and so that was my favorite part of the episode, for sure. And, but anyways, so another date I went on, I was 17, I was living with my dad, and I went out with this boy who he had been asking me out for a while and stuff. My dad and I lived above this gas station. So this guy worked at the gas station. This kid worked at the gas station there. And it was like a gas station for boats. So it was like a fuel station for boats. Because it's I come from a big fishing city and stuff. And so my dad and I, this gas station was it was on the water and stuff. And it was it was wonderful. It was one of my favorite places that my dad and I had lived. And so I forget why I said yes to him that time. I think it was because I was probably just in between boyfriends and I didn't have anything to do that day or something. And so he invited me out to, and it was Fleet Week, so there was sailors in town, and so a lot of his friends who were like these like trailer park, trailer trash kids, you know, they wanted to go to the bars and they wanted to fight the sailors. And so he and I, we went to the downtown to like where all the bars are, and he and I were walking around and meeting people outside, and I couldn't go into the bar, so he would like leave me outside and go get drinks and stuff, and I would hang out with the people outside or whatever and smoke cigarettes, and just kind of went on this ride with him, you know. And I didn't see any sailors getting into fights, but I saw a lot of the trailer park, trailer trash guys getting into fights with each other. So I guess they just kind of didn't have it in them to actually, you know, go forth and fight the mariners, you know, because you know, they were the kids that did that to that girl, you know, that fucked with, they were bullies who grew up and became losers. You know, and they just end up turning on each other and stuff, and that was, you know, that's who bullies grow up to become for the most part. You know, rest assured, like, bullies grow up to become shitheads that get into fights with sailors, or go to bars to get into fights with sailors, and then end up getting into fights with each other, you know. And so we ended up getting invited to this house party that was on a boat. So we went to this boat party, and it's not, if you think of like a yacht party or something like that, that's not what this was. It was like a fishing boat. So we were on this boat, and everyone was drunk and getting fucked up and stuff, but there was a guy there who, one of the kids that lived on the boat, he had just been discharged from the military. So he had seen like just horrible things, and he couldn't go back. He was too fucked up in the head to go back for another tour. So he had to be dismissed from the military. And so he was there, and he was just so sad and so drunk, and he was just falling over, and just like you couldn't understand a word he said, and everyone just felt so bad for him. And it was just, that was the tone of the party. It was just this guy there who just had so much negative energy, which was his right. Like, I mean, if you're going through something, you're gonna have negative energy, and you just can't help that. And he couldn't help it. And so he was just this total bummer, you know, at this party. And so shit, my cigarettes. I want a cigarette. Hold on a second. So yeah, he was there, and then so the cops ended up getting called, and so since I was So the cops ended up getting called, and since I was underage, we had to leave, and so the neighbors on the boat came over and told the party that they had called the cops and stuff, and so they said to break it up, and so my date, he and I, you know, skedoodled. And so he had a dog. So he had this little pit bull, this like girl pit bull that was very sweet, but you know, like still a pit bull. And so we were in the parking lot. We were going to this car, and we were escaping the party. And then the cops were in the parking lot. And then the dog saw the cops and ran at the cops. So the cops pulled out what looked like a gun. Luckily, it was just a taser gun, but they tased the dog. And the dog just yelped. It was on the ground, and it was like shaking, and then it got up, and it was like wobbling and stuff, and its mouth was wide open, like it couldn't close its mouth, and like drool, like just like watery drool was just flowing from this dog's mouth. And it was shocking. It was really one of the most shocking things I've ever seen with my own eyes. It was really shocking. And so my date was just, I forget his name. It was like, I think it was Kevin. I'm 99% sure his name was Kevin. So let's just call him Kevin, because I'm 99% sure his name was Kevin. so anyway, so Kevin was just like, holy shit, you tased my dog, man. Like, what are you doing? Don't tase my dog. And then the cops were just like, well, have your dog on a fucking leash, dude. And then so we got in the car, and they didn't ID me, luckily. And so he just, you know, it's like, everything's fine, it's fine, I'm fine. And so we got into the car, and then the dog was in the back seat, just completely, like, almost passed out, just, like, really, like, just, like, panting and whining, and it was just, and so I was just in total shock and just total silence. The guy, Kevin, was in the driver's seat, just fuming, I was scared of him. Like, I thought he was gonna hit, like, he looked like he wanted to hit somebody, you know, and so he started telling me about how he wanted to go and chop down a tree, and that he could drop me off if I wanted him to, but that was what he was going to go do. And so I was just like, well, I'm kind of here, and this is sort of, I mean, I don't have any place to go, so I'll just go with you. And I mean, I'm sorry, I wasn't going to miss this. And so we drove out the road, we drove into the woods, and he had an axe in his trunk. And so we went and we walked out a little ways into the woods, and he just started hacking away at a tree. He just picked a little tree and just hacked away at it and just cut down this tree. And I was just, you know, I just stood there and just watched him and just smoked a cigarette. And I just, you know, it was just like the sequence of events, you know, like this tree, you know, was a beautiful tree that created oxygen, that gave birds a home, that had green leaves and stuff, and, you know, was beautiful. It was a beautiful tree. And that tree had to die because this guy's dog got tased. You know, that tree, you know, is just going to be a stump in the woods forever. And, yeah, I don't know. I don't understand. I mean, I get it. Like, I get anger, you know, and then it's like screaming into your pillow. He just needed to scream into his pillow, and that's how he did it. And I think that's actually pretty positive and healthy, and I think guys need that kind of outlet a little bit in their life. You know, they just need to be able to chop down a tree every once in a while. You know, there are other things they can do to express their anger, and if that's what they're doing, then I mean, I think that's actually pretty okay, you know. But most recently, I went on a date with this guy, and we went and got like Korean barbecue and stuff, and then and it was kind of late. He had just gotten back into town. So he had been away for like 6 months, and it's like in a different country, and he had just come back to LA. And he and I had known each other from before, and we had stayed in touch, and so he was leaving, and so it was, so he had just gotten back into LA that day, and he wanted to see me. Like, I was the first person on his mind when he got back into LA, and I found that pretty flattering, I guess. And so he was pretty tired from traveling all day and stuff, but we went and got dinner kind of late, and it was nice, he didn't want the date to end after dinner, and so he's like, well, what do you want to do? What do you want to go do? And it was sort of late. It was like, you know, 10 or 11, and I was like, oh, let's go to the Los Feliz Murder House. And the Los Feliz Murder House is one of my favorite places to visit in LA. It's really an experience. It hasn't been successfully lived in for longer than a few years, and it's been owned by like 5 different people. And so in the 1950s, there was a murder-suicide there. A man, he killed his wife, and then he drank poison, and he tried to kill his daughter. And it's just this horrible scene, this horrible event, this horrible thing that happened that night. And it's always existed there in that house. Just that negativity, that bad energy, or just whatever that darkness was that happened that night has never left that house. And you can sense it and you can feel it. And when you go to that house, you feel the sulfur of that night, you know, wafting in the air, and it's really crazy. And so he doesn't believe in ghosts. And I was just like, you'll believe, trust me, you'll believe when you get there. And I was kind of hoping, like, I want to see a ghost. Like, I hope we see a ghost when we get there. And so what ended up happening was we were standing outside the house just talking and stuff. And then this woman came out to walk her dog. And she had this really thick Boston accent. She was just like, what are you guys doing? And we were like, oh, we're just here, you know, looking at the house. And she was like, oh, God. Like, you know, she's like, you know, I'm from Boston. And all of the houses are fucking haunted. No one gives a shit. And those houses have been there for years. And they've had thousands of people die in them. And no one gives a shit. But for some reason in Los Angeles, everyone gives a shit about this fucking house when somebody, like, only, like, one murder happened there 50 years ago. And she just had this whole rant, this whole thing, prepared about why she, like, and it's like what this woman had to deal with being, like, living across the street from the Lost Feliz murder house. Like, people go there to, like, do seances and stuff, and, like, you know, like, covens will go there and do, like, you know, perform rituals and stuff. So this poor woman is just so sick of visitors visiting the Lost Feliz murder house. And she was not happy to see us there for that reason. And so we left and we walked around and we talked. And then and then we were walking to this bar, and then on the way, I looked to the left and I saw this guy trying to break into a car, and so I started speeding up, and my date, he was like, well, what's wrong? And so I said, like, there's a guy over there trying to break into a car, let's go. And he was like, oh, okay. And so then the guy ended up starting to follow us. He started following us, and he was fucked up out of his mind and, like, not making any sense. And he was, like, talking to us and stuff, but he was fucking following us, and I was freaked the fuck out. And my date was just sort of like, like, I mean, he seems harmless. And I actually think that was literally what he said. He's just like, he's harmless. Don't worry about it. It's fine. You're fine. And I was just like, no, we're being followed by this criminal who's trying to break into a car. Oh, and the guy had towels. That was a weird thing about him. That was a weird description about him. That was a weird thing. He had a big package of towels. Not my date, but the guy who was trying to break into a car. He was carrying a big fucking package of towels. So anyways, so I'm freaked out. I'm really spooked. I'm really freaked out that this guy is following us. He could have a knife, you know. If he has towels, he probably has a knife. He's ready to clean up blood. He had all those fucking towels. So he says, well, do you want to run? Let's just run. And so I was like, okay. And so we start running. And then the guy starts running after us. And then I start screaming. And I'm just like, oh my God, he's going to murder us. And my date is just laughing. Like, he just thinks this is hilarious. And then I get on the phone. I'm on the phone with 911. Like, I've called the cops. The dispatch officer answers. And then he just says, do you want me to just go hit him? And I was like, yeah, go hit him. Go get rid of him. So this guy goes over and he just says, like, leave us alone, dude. And then so he punches him and kicks him in the balls. And then the guy just, like, you know, he doesn't even fall over. Which I think he was just that fucked up. I don't think that was I don't think that, I think my date was pretty strong, you know? And so, anyways, so I just think that the guy with the towels was really just that fucked up that, you know, he couldn't feel pain, and it was just really scary. And then so my date and I, we go back, keep walking to the bar and stuff. That we got off the phone with the dispatch officer. She told us that the cops weren't going to be there for another 45 minutes. So it was just like, well, we're not going to wait around with this guy for 45 minutes for him. So the guy runs across the street and starts trying to break into another car, and we just leave him there. And I'm just so, like, the adrenaline of that experience, we just start making out. We're just making out walking to the bar. And so we get into the bar, and we talk and we make out in the bar and stuff, and it was really nice. And, you know, I don't know, like, with these dates and stuff, like, they're experiences. Like, that's all they are. Like, don't take them too seriously. Like, they're just experiences. I feel like I take dating too seriously. Or not seriously enough, because I'm not married. But I don't know. Who knows? Anyways, those are my funny date or my crazy date stories. I won. I win. I win at Crazy Dates. Thank you for watching. If you would like to like and subscribe to my channel, that would be really great. Thank you so much. Have a lovely day. Bye.